Not only did the Jacksonville Jaguars lose their last preseason game, Chad Muma probably lost a roster spot. I'll tell you in just a second.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars, and we thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, credential member of the NFL media for 2 decades now, and we have the pulse of the Jacksonville Jaguars right here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank the everydayers who join us each and every day. We appreciate you for allowing us to take up your time and tell you more about this team each and every day. Also, wherever you get your podcast, make sure you tap into that location. Whether you watch or listen, we'll be there each and every day. I don't want you to miss an episode. On this particular episode, and hello to the newcomers also, on this particular episode, it's going to be divided in 2 halves. Second half, we'll say who made and lost an opportunity. And at the very top, we'll go with what did the inactive list mean? It meant the Jacksonville Jaguars were not going to be messing around and playing around and getting guys injured, especially the starters or key people that they know are going to play a significant role in the depth, and the guys that will probably be harder to go out and find someone or replace someone at this juncture. None of their offensive linemen played. I think with the exception of Jonah Monheim, he's the one that I believe makes the team, who also, I think he played tonight, if I'm not mistaken. I had the inactive list right in my face just a second ago, but none of the offensive linemen. There were some names on defense that I saw them for an extended period, and I was a little bit shocked. Yasir Abdullah made a very, very nice play, sacking the quarterback by keeping his discipline on the backside. I didn't expect him to be in the game that late. I looked up and he was still in the game in the fourth quarter, so that was a bit of a surprise. I wasn't surprised to see Mason Smith. He needs the work. He's obviously going to make this team. He's a big part of this season and the future of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I was surprised to see Jordan Jefferson in that late, and because I saw him in that late, because I watched him with intent and I didn't see a whole bunch of stuff, I'm afraid for Buddy. I know that they don't like giving up on big people. No one does. And he is one of the biggest, strongest guys at a position that isn't necessarily the deepest on the team. But remember, they went out and got Colin Saunders. Colin Saunders is a nose tackle, and so is Devon Hamilton. You know what that means? That means that we might have been wrong. We were thinking that maybe they go and add depth in the interior of the defensive line because Armstead and Mason Smith aren't around. No, I think they might have seen a little bit of enough of Jordan Jefferson to realize that they needed to go out and get some help. Eli Panko was on, he was inactive. There were some guys like Jalen McLeod that were inactive that I said, okay, that's probably because of injury. We can't read too much into that. And then that might have meant why some other guys had to play a little bit more, because you still got to be able to line up in certain formations. And maybe that's why Yasir was out there. But he absolutely took advantage of it, right? So did Jack Kaiser. Jack Kaiser took advantage of the opportunity that he had to go out and make a play. And he made a play that was right when the Dolphins still had a lot of their guys in the game. You know, Miami played, first of all, the score was 14-6, but Miami played their starters while the Jaguars played a lot of second and third teamers early, and you could really, really tell the difference. But those guys were holding their own for a little bit, and some guys were making some plays and some guys didn't. So the people that we saw playing were all obviously fighting for something. And there were a couple of them, like I said, when it comes to Mason Smith, you know he's going to make the team. It's just that he had things that he needed to work on. And I even think with Abdullah, you know he's going to make the team. There were things that he needed to work on. The interesting part is if there are some roster spots on the back end for the secondary, depending if they keep 10, if they keep anywhere between 9 and 10, maybe you saw 2 of those dudes out there fighting for those jobs tonight. Rayon Lane, who is a rookie, who is a very good player on special teams, well, he had to start showing it now, playing actual safety, and he did a good job. Almost really got an interception on a ball that he deflected. So it's going to be interesting what they do with guys like that. All right. So the big thing is they're going to start chopping this roster down Tuesday. And then other teams will start doing the same thing. And as you get closer and closer to game day, probably this time next weekend, maybe they assess what's out there for them to add one or two players to their roster. I want to speak about the running backs and Chad Muma. The running backs and Chad Muma. Because when I want to get into who made and lost an opportunity, it's going to start with Chad Muma and that lost opportunity. We'll do all that in just a second here on Locked on Jaguars on a postcast edition of Locked on Jaguars. Today's show is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. I already drafted. I drafted one league today, and I got one tomorrow. It's looking good too, man. And I got all of my practice on Yahoo, and y'all need to be doing the same thing. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days through August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/locked-on. Today's show is also sponsored by Rugiet. What is a Rugiet? Guys, if you've heard of Viagra and Cialis, well, maybe you've tried them, but you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, and it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. That's right. Effects can last up to 36 hours. Right on for that. All right. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL and use the promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. And last but not least, in the slightest way, today's show is brought to you and sponsored by FanDuel. August 26th. That's the official day that is called FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, rolling along here on the postcast edition of Locked on Jaguars. 14-6 loss, the score. I'm not going to go through the box score and the stats because nobody ain't worried about that right now. This is all about guys who played and who got an opportunity. Not really much in the linebacker department. I noticed too, it was kind of inconspicuous who wasn't inactive. And Ventrell Miller, of course, Jack Kaiser. Jack Kaiser made a good play. Yasir Abdullah, those guys made plays, man. And that's what you really, really want to do. BJ Green. I think BJ Green seized the opportunity. BJ Green really did seize the opportunity on defense. He's just an active dude, man. Long arms, even though he's only 6'1", 170. 270, 170. He ain't 6'1", 170. He's 6'1", 270. I think he did what he needed to do. And maybe Kelby Rose even gave the Jaguars something to think about at the nose tackle spot if they're going to keep a third nose tackle on this team, or maybe even for him getting himself on the practice squad. The running backs. Obviously, Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, and Bashal Tootin, they didn't play. Jaquindon Jackson continues to be somebody that gives them a little bit of a different look. I don't think he's spectacular, dynamic, or anything like that, but he put out some good tape tonight. He's a hard dude to tackle, and he can help anybody who needs a power running back. So if it's not here, it's possibly somewhere else where he goes and gets it done. It sounds like Austin Trammell is going to make the team. He played, but James Gladstone during the game was talking about him in the booth and talking about how he's just the kind of dude you want around in the room. He's a hard worker, so I expect him. Trenton Irwin dropped the ball tonight, and the fans were telling me he's number 3 of the dudes that blew their opportunity. Number 2 of the guys that blew their opportunity, if they had one, was Javon Foster, a 4th-round pick last year. It was terrible. The part I saw, it was disgustingly bad, and it just looks like somebody said he shouldn't have made the trip and even dressed out for the game. But number 1 on the list, dudes who may have lost their opportunity, was Chad Muma. Chad Muma got his socks shaken off of him on a touchdown run by Washington, the receiver for the Miami Dolphins. And he looked bad doing it. And then I saw him on a blitz up the 8 gap, and he did a flip, man, that probably would have won him the gold medal in the Olympics. So to me, he did come back and redeem himself a little bit with breaking up a pass, but I just think Chad Muma's days are pretty much numbered. And there are people that actually said that he should not get on the bus and come back home. I ain't going to be that harsh on the dude. But as I mentioned last week on Locked On Jaguars, I just don't think Chad Muma has changed very much or has moved the needle very much since he first got here as a rookie. All right, with these cuts coming, I'll take a deep dive. I'll take at least 36 hours, take a deep dive into what I think is going to happen. We'll redo our not so early 53. We'll do that for you on Monday. And then from that point on, we'll assess all next week. We're going to assess whether or not they need to go out and add something, whether you can always get better, and then really, really take a hard look at this roster and then go back and say, okay, what did they do? Did they really, really fix enough stuff with the opportunities that they had? All right, man, you guys make sure you tap into Locked On Jaguars. It's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. I appreciate y'all staying with me today for a little bit under 13 minutes, but we'll be back next week with more action and more podcasts and letting you know who we think is going to make this team. Until then, y'all take care. We'll see you later.